We are 5 days into the new year. What is that? I was just trying to figure out 2020, and it has been 2 years since the pandemic. It's a hard 2 years. It's as if I was trying to just survive 2020, and then I woke up one day, it's already 2022. So, fresh year, first month of the year. So this is probably the favorite month of people to set new goals, new aspirations, set new habits. And I, for one, have the habit of putting on vision boards and writing down what I wanted to happen and all that, which, by the way, I didn't get to do this past 2 years. When 2020 started, I had it written, but it all went out of the window. And I think a lot of our plans have went out of the window when the pandemic happened. So I wrote this journal entry just yesterday and continued on today. And I wanted it to be like a pep talk for myself or for anyone who's willing to listen. So it's about success and how we should go on, still go on. You see, nowadays we are bombarded with images of people's successes. There's rags to riches stories run rampant on social media, both in the people we know and the people we don't know that have glossier images of how successful they are. So sometimes there's an illusion that success happening overnight. But as the stories come to light, people then narrate tales of struggles, of rejections, of naysayers, of financial difficulties, and essentially humble beginnings. That's when you realize that it took them a lot of effort and sacrifice to be where they are now. Although, admittedly, some people have unfair disadvantages, but still, there's still an effort to that success. See, sometimes we find ourselves in the crossroads of our lives, trying to figure out how to be as successful as those that we so admire, or even our closest relatives or friends. And the beginning of the journey is always the hardest. So I think January in itself is a hard month because it sets a tone to the rest of the year. And so this is me trying to encourage myself as well as the listeners that there's always that hesitation that comes from the fear of failing. Fear is like a double-edged sword. It could bring you to a catatonic state. Fear could be so paralyzing that it eats you up in the inside and end up manifesting externally as you being trapped in the corner and not being able to channel your full potential. But on another hand, fear could also play a pivotal role on succeeding. I remember being so afraid of failure that I put my heart and my effort in just going away from the word failure as much as possible. The fear of failure will always be at the back of your mind. At least for mine, it is always there. I could never totally shrug it off. And I think having fear is also humbling. It keeps you grounded. If you don't have that fear, I don't think that you can be as grounded as you would be. I would always have fear right there, just, at times in the quiet of the night, that when it creeps up and tells me that I might not be good enough, that I might not succeed. I would always remember it during downtimes or those tiny breaks in between working towards something I wanted to achieve. Like by the time I switch off the study lamp right after studying the whole night, that's when fear whispers, I didn't think you studied enough. I think you missed a page. I think you missed a chapter. What you've studied is not going to come out in the exam. But you see, I ended up just hushing the fear with the belief that I did everything I could, and if that wasn't enough, then I would reevaluate and re-examine what I could do better. That's how I push through. So the most important thing is not to think of fear as an inevitable event, but rather an unfortunate consequence of not preparing to succeed. So take a pause and talk to yourself. Be acquainted with that fear. Be acquainted with the fear that somehow defines you. Figure out a way to use that fear to your advantage. Prepare for success rather than be engulfed with that fear. Hold that vision of you succeeding long enough that it becomes a reality. Let the fear take the backseat and eventually drop it off in the destination of oblivion. It is inevitable that in every journey we take, we'll be met with a few hardships here and there, some minor and some seemingly insurmountable. One becomes engulfed in situations that all we see are the challenges in front of us. We fail to see just how much progress we have done, so at times it is imperative that we take a step back, although briefly, to re-examine the situation and look at the things at a different vantage point. If things are still unclear, if they still appear murky, look for unbiased allies. This could be family or friends that would not sugarcoat things, even if it will hurt you, and honestly tell you if you are making progress. Because that's one way you could see just how far you have come. Look for those allies, hold on to them. They will make things clearer, or at least help you make things clearer. If you're in a momentum, go back and carry on from what you're doing from that downtime. But if you find yourself on a standstill after the period of re-examination, take that time to rest, reassess, and reevaluate the things that you have done so far. Bet on the habits that have allowed you to come closer to the goal. Abandon those that bring setbacks and distress. Some setbacks are so hard that it could bring us into a deciding point whether we continue or not. But always remember, no one becomes a success overnight. Everyone will always have a backstory, and you are the author of your own narrative. So while we can't simply wake up the next day and live the life we so desire, we can, however, take each day to develop our character, our skills, and put in consistent effort. The deciding point of success are not the spur of the moment burst of efforts. It is brought about by persistent, relentless pursuit of that goal.